my name is Turkovic, and today I'm going to talk about the Zachman framework for enterprise architecture and information systems architecture. Many methodologies or frameworks are organized around the system development lifecycle. That is an organization of the steps required to develop systems and include strategy, analysis, design, construction, documentation, transition and production. Each of these steps addresses issues of data and function. In 1987, John Zachman came with a different approach to the elements of system development. He emphasized that it is more important to recognize that systems are developed by distinct groups with different points of view than is to see the movement of systems from one step to another. Instead of representing the process as a series of steps, he organized it around the points of view or perspectives taken by the various players. These players are represented with 6 rows within the Zachman framework and take the form of a 36-cell table, and they include scope, the perspective of the planner. The planner is concerned with general description of information systems and the positioning of information systems in context to its internal and external environment. Planning not only identifies the major components of the IS but also addresses its financial viability, constraints, and scope. Model of the business or perspective of the owner. In business terms, this defines the nature of the business, including structure, functions, organizations, and so forth. In general, the owner is interested in business deliverable, its functionalities, and how it will be used. Third is the model of information system, perspective of architect or designer. The architect needs to understand the IS from both the business perspective and the technical perspective. The architect works with the IS specification provided by the planner and the owner to produce a design that will both fulfill the owner's functional expectations and can be technically realized by the builder. Third is technology model, perspective of the builder. This describes how technology may be used to address the information processing needs identified in the previous rows. The builder manages the process of producing and assembling the components of the IS. Fifth, detailed representation or perspective of subcontractor. This is a view of the program listings, database specifications, networks, and so forth that constitute a particular system. The subcontractor builds specific parts of the product. Often these parts are produced out of context, which in many cases ensures their reusability based on very detailed component specification provided by the builder. And sixth, the last one, is functioning systems, perspective of the user. Finally, a system is implemented and made part of an organization. The user's perspective is the interface and functionality of the final product. As we see, if the rows are represented by rows in the matrix in the framework, the things examined can be represented by columns. The columns represent the data manipulated by an organization, that is what, its functions and processes, how, locations where business is conducted, it's where, events that trigger business activities, it's when, the people and organizations involved, that's who, and the motivations and constraints which determine how the business behaves, that is why. Now I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of Zachman framework. Several advantages of this framework include improving professional communication within the information systems community, understanding the reasons for and risks of not developing any one architectural representation, placing a wide variety of tools and or methodologies in relation to one another, and the last, developing improving approaches including methodologies and tools to produce each of the architectural representations, as well as possibly rethinking the nature of the classic application development process as we know it today. Disadvantages: it can lead to documentation heavy approach to development, and the Zechman framework isn't well accepted within the development community, and the few developers even seem to have even heard about it. The Zechman framework seems to promote also a top-down approach to development. And the fifth is the Zechman framework appears to be based towards traditional data-centric techniques, explaining its popularity within the data community. In conclusion, the Zechman framework would seem to provide a sensible way to approach the needs of all players when attempting to build information systems. Enterprise size. Each of the framework's 36 cells produces at least one output document to describe the system from the particular viewpoint. We do not have models or even well-developed methods for dealing with many of these cells. John Zechman doesn't advocate the use of any particular modeling style for those cells where multiple techniques are available. And he is the first to recognize that in some cells no good techniques exist at all. It's also important to note that Zechman framework competes with other approaches to building enterprise information systems. Given the difference in various frameworks and the needs of different businesses, it may be useful to assess which framework best fit the type of project considered by the business. That would be all. That's my presentation, and good luck. Thank you.